Hello, former Crusaders, and welcome to our special episode. My name's Sean Waskirk. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today we're going to be doing a double review, non-spoiler and spoiler discussion for both, of Bad Boys Ride or Die. I keep wanting to call it Bad Boys for Life, but that's the third movie. And that title makes more fucking sense for this one because it's the fourth film. And Netflix's Hitman, starring one of our favorites, Glenn Powell. We're here talking about both. Real side quests real fast. Like when I say real fast, I'm talking about less than a minute. Brian also saw The Watchers. And brief summary, because he doesn't want to go into great detail about it, but brief summary, Brian, of The Watchers.
No, this is a movie like I was actually from the trailers. I was actually intrigued by it because it's like, from Shyamalan's daughter, and I'm like, and the trailers looked intriguing, and I started watching the movie. It kind of had a nice atmosphere to it at the beginning. I mean, then again, M. Night's had the same thing. Even his bad movies have a nice, creepy atmosphere to them. And I'm watching it, and then it's like the plot kind of doesn't really go anywhere. And by the end, it's just like, you're rolling your eyes like you are in some of the worst of the Shyamalan movies. And in the end, it's forgettable and it's not worth your time. And I'm not going to go into any more detail because I've honestly forgotten most of what I saw. So yeah, skip it.
And it's been less than 48 hours since he's watched it. So yeah. That should tell you something about the movie.
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry, tell me you read up on the ending. I'm like, I don't even remember this.
Yeah, I read up on it, and he's like, I don't even remember that. And I was like, you watched it? He's like, yeah, I still don't remember it. So anyway, Watchers, not good. I even asked him off air. I was like, is this worse than Madam Web? And his response was, and I'll just briefly say what he says, Madam Web is more fun to watch because it's funny bad, and this is just dull bad. So there's your brief, like I said, 1 minute review of The Watchers. But we're here to talk about two movies that we were actually excited to watch. And that is Bad Boys and Hitman. We'll start with Hitman because that's the Netflix one, and people probably don't know it as much. So we want to definitely get some word out on that. Now, this was a movie that I think you knew about first because it popped up for you, and then you kind of basically sent it to me like, oh my God, I hope this is great.
Yeah, well, I heard about it a while back when I first heard he was doing it. Because he's been working on it with Richard Linklater for a couple of years now. This is like, I think it was Glenn Powell's idea, and kind of him and Richard Linklater kind of worked together throughout the last couple of years to kind of get the script and everything and get it made. And so I was looking forward to it. And then I heard that it was Netflix was going to bought it up and they were going to release it. And I was like, is that a red flag? Because sometimes, they've made good ones, obviously. We've made some of them our favorite movies of the year.
I was saying,
a lot of bad ones too. And there's a lot of you watching, like, there's a reason this went to streaming.
Netflix is good to us. I mean, like I said, it's Netflix for the most part has won the top tier award for us, 2 out of the last 3 years. So
yeah, but for every great one, there's like 20 bad ones.
Well, so I would great. Hold on. Every great one, there's about 10 bad ones and 10
I will agree with that. Yeah.
I was like, I wouldn't go 20 bad. I would go like, there's a reason this is on streaming.
But no, so I heard about it. I heard it was coming to Netflix, and I was still looking forward to it just because of the pedigree and Glenn Powell and all that, and Adria Arjona, I love her as well. So yeah, that's where we're going into it.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where, and this was the weird thing where we were going with this, was that we saw the first trailer, and I was on the side of, ooh, he's gonna play different versions of Hitman. This is gonna be fun, and you were like, I don't like that. So we're both on different sides of this mindset before we even went into this film.
I will say that I didn't mind the idea of him playing like different characters, like he was going to take on different personas, because obviously can't be the same person every time, and they explain why. He adapts the person to the client. But it was the fact that when I saw the trailer and they were like these cartoonish, caricatures of people, I'm like, oh, this is not the tone I was hoping for in this movie.
But yeah, so anyway, this is loosely based on a true story of a guy named Gary Johnson. He's a professor. I don't think they ever say what school, but he's in New Orleans. So maybe LSU, maybe not. I don't know. But
seems like more of a community thing, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like it's not psychology, it's philosophy. Something like that. Yeah, and he basically works for the New Orleans PD as like a tech guy, and he's a part of this like undercover sting for hitmen, where men and women hire a hitman to go out a hit. This one guy goes in there to pretend to be a hitman. Once money is exchanged and the person says, I want you to kill them, they basically arrest that person. That particular officer is suspended. I'm blanking on his name. It's Dwight from The Walking Dead. Find his name
He
here.
was also in Everybody Wants Some with Glenn Powell.
What's that?
He was also in Everybody Wants Some with Glenn Powell.
Oh, was he? Yeah. Austin Amelo. But I know him as Dwight from The Walking Dead. Even though I did watch Everybody Wants Some, but I don't remember him from that. I just remember him as Dwight from The Walking Dead. Anyway, he gets suspended, and they basically say, "Hey, Gary can do it." And Gary goes in there and actually does a really great job. And then they just kind of say, "Hey, Gary's going to do this from now on." And like you said, he studies the person through their social media, finds out their likes, their dislikes, and he basically takes kind of a molded clay of what this person is and molds himself into what he perceives as the perfect hitman for them. So that way they're more open to accepting the offer instead of just being looking like himself every time. So he is a master of disguise to a point. I mean, he's not going like full on Mission Impossible with it, but I mean, he's changing the way he looks. He's pretty good with accents that we see in this. And we get to see about 8 different versions of him doing this in the first half of the film. But he eventually comes along, Madison, played by, say her name, so I'm going to say it wrong.
I actually think I heard her pronounce it recently. She made it sound like Adria Arcona, but it's actually Adria Arjona. The J is an H. So
yes. And he comes across her, and obviously he has a conversation with her, and he basically kind of talks her out of it and lets her go. But then eventually they meet up again, and he's playing this hitman character named Ron with her, and a relationship starts to develop between her and Ron. And so for anyone who knows these kinds of stories, that's the rest of the movie from there. She's not dating Gary, she's dating Ron, and that Ron and Gary start to mix, and what the hell's going to happen, because she still was someone that they were supposed to arrest and didn't. This movie lives and dies off of Glenn Powell's performance. Now, this is a guy that, like you said, you first saw him in Everybody Wants Some. I first saw him in Scream Queens. He became he further established himself with us through Set It Up on Netflix, which is still hands down one of the best rom-coms in the last 10 years that a lot of people have not seen because it was a Netflix movie. Him and Zoe Deutsch have phenomenal chemistry. And that's one thing with Glenn Powell. He has phenomenal chemistry with everybody.
pretty much.
he has this, and some people have called him this, and I consider it a diss, but it's not necessarily wrong. People call him the Wish version of Matthew McConaughey and Tom Cruise. And I'm like, let's not lump him in with them. He's his own person, but I mean, he does have that.
I think the reason for that kind of statement is I think he has the kind of natural charisma and the cool of like Matthew McConaughey, but because he's not as big a name as Matthew McConaughey, they call him the Wish version. But I think he's just as valid. Yeah,
and I think he's not like Ryan Reynolds where he's all the way the fuck up here over here doing those things, but he has that natural ability that you are just fixed on him, whether he's a secondary character in Top Gun Maverick or whether he's in the forefront like he is in this film. And we're going to see him again in a couple months in Twisters, where he is going to be the top dog in that movie. And he's top dog in this one, but that one's fucking theaters where you're going to see what Glenn Powell does there. And we both hope he knocks it out of the fucking park. But this movie rides or dies off of him. And
hey, you're tying in the reviews. I see. Yeah, gotcha.
What's that?
You said rides or dies. You're tying in the 2 reviews.
Unintentionally, but yes. But it lives and dies off of this. And he's fantastic in this film because he's Glenn Powell. When Glenn Powell is Glenn Powell, which is just natural charisma, it's great. And him and Adriana, did I say it right?
Adria. Just
Adria. Their chemistry is through the charts. I bought into their hot, spicy romance through this film. And she is, I've seen her in some things, nothing standout worthy. She's always been someone like, oh yeah,
You didn't love her in Morbius? What?
Yeah, Morbius. Because I kept on like, I know her from somewhere. Whereas I'm like, oh wait, she's Morbius's girlfriend.
Morbius, Six Underground, Pacific Rim Uprising, Belko Experiment. So Belko Experiment is the main one I know her from. Yeah.
Once I saw Six Underground, I was like, that's where I really know her from, is from Six Underground. But this is probably the movie that really puts her in the forefront. And I think she actually does a great job.
Oh, and Andor.
And what?
Andor.
Oh, Andor. Yeah, she does have a small part in Andor, which will probably grow in season 2. But I think she does a great job in this movie, and I think Glenn Powell does a great job. And I'm going to swing back to you though on your thoughts. Like I said, non-spoiler wise, and then we'll go into it's probably not going to be a big spoiler discussion, but non-spoiler wise, what were your thoughts on the film overall?
No, I really did enjoy the film. The chemistry. I think Glenn Powell's performance by himself, as well as the chemistry between the two, I think are definitely what makes this film, because I think their chemistry is great. I mean, he's obviously got his natural charisma, and she's just smoking sexy. And the two of them together, it's kind of like I felt with like Brad and Angelina and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's just like you believe it 100%, and it just feels, the chemistry, and it's really, kind of this hot romance going on. You can understand the immediate attraction between them. So I really like them, and they carried the movie. The disguises thing, this is not a spoiler. The disguises thing, the different hitmen, that
it's literally on the poster.
It's done away with super early on. It's like, he does a kind of a chain of them early on. I think later on you see like one or two more brief ones, but that became a much smaller part. I thought that was going to be like the movie, and it's not. It's kind of a small introduction part of the movie, and that made me very happy, because I did find it kind of cheesy. A couple of them are mildly amusing, but for the most part, I'm like, this is just too cartoony for the movie I'm looking to watch. But it alleviated my fears, because that was done away with fairly early on. So I enjoyed the movie very much. I think that between Glenn and Richard Linklater, I think the writing was very well done. The end, which we'll talk about later, the tone kind of took a turn and made some moves in the plot, we'll get into later on, which may have dragged it down just ever so slightly for me, but I did really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I enjoyed watching these two on screen. I enjoyed watching their characters. I was invested in their characters. Whether you like them or dislike them as people, that's a totally different mindset, because in the long and short of it all, she was hiring someone to kill her husband. Now, her husband is a douche that we see in the movie.
Yeah, that was the reason he let her go, is because she was like, clearly this person who was like in this abusive relationship or whatever, and she was trying to get out. She wasn't just some person who just wanted somebody dead to get away of having an affair or something. Yeah,
exactly. And then they just kind of stumbled into each other, and then things happened. Here's, and it's not necessarily a problem, because I don't want to go. What I don't want this to come off as is, I don't want this to come off as every pissed off Star Wars MCU fan of, this is not the movie I wanted kind of thing, because that's not what I'm trying to go with here. But through the movie, I literally kept thinking of like 3 different other films that they could have gone, like the route they could have gone into, like 3 different other movies. And to me, those 3 other movies seemed a lot more fun and a lot more exciting than the movie we got. I'm not mad with the movie we got, but I felt with the performances we were getting and with the disguises and stuff, because I kept going, oh, this is what's going to happen. Like, this is totally setting up this. And it didn't. Or, oh, they're totally going down this road. Like, this makes sense. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. And it doesn't. And it's like, oh, no, this is actually just a straight up rom-com. And then the third act goes off the rails like it's supposed to, but not in the way that I really liked or wanted it to go. Because at the end, I'm like, okay, there's one of 3 ways this could go, and it went the third way, which is the way I wasn't expecting it to go. So, I mean, you kept me on my toes, but I don't know if I necessarily liked that at all. But I'm not gonna dock the movie for that.
That's kind of how I felt about the ending of it, yeah, as well. And as far as the rom-com aspect of it, that took me by surprise how much of a rom-com it was, because I knew that there was like a romance aspect, and it was obviously partially comedy, but I think I was expecting I wasn't expecting so much of the kind of rom-com angle to it, and again, that's not a knock against it, because I felt the same way about The Fall Guy earlier this year.
Yeah,
it's like that was way more rom-com than I expected in this movie, but I still loved that movie. I kind of felt the same way about this one. I didn't hurt it for me, but it was just more than I expected. And not that I mind it, because I was talking about in my review that there's kind of a subgenre of the hitman rom-com, which is like Grosse Point Blank and Mr. Right and some of these other movies. It's like that seems
what
to be
we talked about, and the reason to actually like it when we saw the first trailer. I was like, this could be like those. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it seems like that kind of tone, that kind of movie is just something that works for me. And while this one, I think, definitely not as good as Grosse Point Blank, I'd probably put it at least on par with Mr. Right.
I'd still give Mr. Right the better.
But I still enjoy all 3 of them, obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, I wasn't a big fan of the rest of the cast. I think, and I like I'm blanking on his freaking name again. I like Austin Emilio. I like Rita.
Retta,
Um,
yeah.
I like those two. I don't think they're given a whole lot to work with. I think there's especially with Austin's character Jasper, there's a lot of story that was tell, not show. And they really needed to show it for you to really buy into something that they do in the third act.
That's just it. Is early on, I'm thinking, okay, he's just supposed to be the kind of antagonist. He's supposed to be kind of the prick that doesn't want Glenn Powell's character to succeed, and he's kind of like, he's not a bad guy necessarily, but he's kind of like the foil for him. And it's like, okay, I get that. He's just kind of, like every police story has like the main character and one policeman who's like an asshole. It's like, okay, that's just that character. But like you said, it's like that would be fine. I don't need more backstory. Like they talk about how he's been suspended, the whole reason that he takes over. I don't need to know any more backstory on this dude. But then with some of the choices they make later in the movie, you're like, okay, we need more justification for this.
I need more of a reason for this. But yeah, I wasn't really a fan of when the other cast was brought in. I feel like the movie was losing itself. Not necessarily losing itself. It wasn't as enjoyable. It wasn't as fun. And like I said, I'm tiptoeing around so much because there's a lot that we can't talk about in the non-spoiler aspect. But at the end of the day, for a Netflix film, and this film's is getting like a 98 on Rotten Tomato, which once again, for people who don't understand Rotten Tomato, 98% does not mean it's like an A++ movie. It means that it got at least a 6 out of 10, which means that it was a solid film. It's not bad, and most people are in the same agreement. It's a solid film, and I agree. It's a solid rom-com-ish kind of film. It is completely owned by these two leads. They both come in and they both knock it out of the park. The movie around them, not the movie I wanted, not the fourth movie I wanted out of this plot, but it's solid for what I got out of it, and it's driven by these two performances and not by much else. So
yeah, even if it's not exactly the movie that I was looking for, I am glad to see that is for the most part getting great reviews and getting good reception, because obviously we want Glenn Powell to continue to be rising star. Absolutely. And I'd also like to see more of Adria too. So
I absolutely, especially now after this movie.
I mean, we saw plenty of it, but
so what did you yeah, pretty much, yeah. What would you end up giving this movie?
I wavered between, I ended up at a 3.5 out of 5, which basically is 7 out of 10. I leaning to, there's a chance it could bump up to 4 stars on a later viewing, but right now it's 3.5.
I have been bouncing up and down with this as well. And it's one of those things where it's like, I was enjoying it watching it with my girlfriend, but then like after like the next day I'm thinking about this movie and I kind of just got more agitated with certain things that they did. It is literally the performance of the two leads that wins me over for this at the end. And for me, I'm going to give it a 73%. If it wasn't for the performances of these two leads, it would be maybe in the 60s or high 50s. But because I just love the performances of these two, it is enough to bump it into a 7 out of 10 range for me as well. We're going to jump to spoiler real quick. So here's your 5-second warning. And then once we're done with the spoiler, we will then jump over to Bad Boys. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Jasper.
There's only one real spoiler thing to talk about. Yeah.
Well, exactly. The whole third act. Because I kept going, okay, well, because at first I thought this movie was, she's going to frame him. Like there's the point where, they're in the kitchen and she hands him his gun. And it's like, oh, because even my girlfriend was like, why'd you touch the gun? Like, she's setting you up. Like, that's what's going on. She's going to set you up and she's going to play everything on you. And we kept thinking that was where that was going to go. Or it was going to be something with with the hitman, and he's going to have to use the different disguises to kind of skate by. I was kind of hoping we were maybe going to get by that because, first off, his Patrick Bateman was fucking great. He did a great Christian Bale from American Psycho, and then his a lot of people call it the Tilda Swinton. I thought was great. I thought it was great as well. I loved him. And I was hoping to get a little bit more out of him towards the end. Like he needed to use those in order to save the day. And then the ending we got where we had to basically kill Jasper for them to both get away. So he had to become a murderer at the end of the day. But once again, it's one of those things where she killed her husband. She poisoned Jasper. Is this someone you really are going to trust at the end of the day? Oh, okay, be the best husband ever. Okay. But at the end of the day, she's probably going to want to kill you at some point. Like, are you paying attention?
But look at her though. It might be worth it.
Exactly. It's like
I'll take that chance.
It's like she's so hot that you just don't care. Which granted, we do a time jump at the end, which looks like at least 5-6 years where they got two kids, and everything's happy. But eventually, she's probably gonna kill you, dude. Because we've seen it happen. She's killed 2 people. But like I said, the whole killing of Jasper, they just kept telling us, oh, he's narcissistic, he's racist at one point, which I was like, well, we never
that's just
seen that. And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, continue.
But I was like, early on, I thought they were kind of intimating that, like, he was abusive and beaten it, and it turns out he's more just like controlling a little bit, and he's obviously a very jealous person and things like that. But it's like nothing that really met that level of it's okay to kill this guy.
Yeah.
So she kills him, and you're like, okay, now she's just a straight up criminal, because like if it was if he was beating her and she did it because she thought he's going to kill me eventually, I got to do this. Maybe that justifies it. It wasn't that case.
You're talking about the husband, not Jasper.
Right now, I'm talking about the husband.
Okay, yeah, because I agree, because that was one of the things too. Is I was like, maybe because when you talk, when like he's talking to him, thinking, not knowing that it's him sitting behind him in the cafe, I was like, maybe she was lying about all this.
Because he sounded like, oh, I just really miss my wife and I love her, and I was
like it could have gone that route where she's actually the fucking insane, crazy one, and that was once again that was one of the movies I thought we were gonna go to, and we didn't. And he just seems like more of a douche, asshole, controlling asshole, but
not worthy of being murdered.
No, being divorced, yes, stuff like that. But then, him doing that was like, okay, I guess there's your opening that it's okay that he dies. But then with the Jasper part, it's like, okay, he's suspended because he got into a fight with a bunch of teenagers that were caught on a phone or whatever. Okay, cool. But like, and then I was like, okay, he's trying to like partner up with Gary here. Once he found out what Gary was doing, I was like, are we going to get an opening here where he's going to talk about how he's a dirty cop or how he's done all these bad things, and now he feels like Gary can kind of be his counterpart to it? We don't get that.
No, so essentially all it was I'm going to blackmail you, so you give me that money, and then they say, okay, then we'll just kill you. And it's like, I'm not sure that blackmailing you is enough to be like, oh, I'm okay with our heroes just straight up murdering somebody.
And then his explanation for people just want him gone, so we'll just get him gone. I don't think it would have been that cut and dry. Jasper did not come off as someone who would just have upped and left or killed himself or something like that. So I felt like them just jumping ahead 5 years was a cop-out. I really would have been more interested in seeing where that would have went. I get that's not the story that he wanted to tell, but it was one of the things where it's like, this is all too clean. It's way, way too clean, and you just kind of tied it up in a little bow, and then like 5 years later, and it's like, no, because you haven't done enough to make Jasper worthy of a death like this. You've just completely made Gary and Madison just straight up evil at this point. Granted, it's a means to an end so they can move on with their lives, but still, you took Gary, who was like this innocent guy who's doing this thing, and he basically fell in love with the hot chick who's a little dangerous and went full on murderer at the end. And if you are on board with it, I guess you're okay with the ending. If you're not on board with it, you're going to fucking hate it. But I was kind of more in the middle, because I was like, dude, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then, did Jasper deserve to die? I don't think he did. Could you have been smart enough to maybe catch him in something and got arrested? I mean, because you sold everything. Because I thought that whole scene where he's like reading it and they're acting, I thought that was great. I thought that was a really
that was a great scene. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you guys are both smart enough that you guys could find a way to get through this. And they just kind of went with, no, we're just going to drug him and kill him. And end scene and end of movie. And I'm like, that doesn't sit well.
And I feel like that's what I was talking about, how the ending kind of dropped it just slightly for me. Because if it had stuck that ending, even though it wasn't exactly the movie I was looking for, if it had stuck that ending, it would have been 4 stars, I think, no problem.
Yeah.
But it did drop it down because at the end, you kind of like, eh.
And it's one of those movies too where I was like, should I recommend this to people? And I was like, I want to recommend it because I want more people to know. But it's like, I don't know if I want to recommend this because of how it ends. Because I don't know if I really love the ending of this movie. I love the first half of this film. I pretty much, like, as soon as they had that conversation with the phone, the movie just fell apart for me at the end. And I just, I'm just like, I don't know if I would recommend it. Like, it's fine. It went from like, this is good to, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think I would still call it good. I would still recommend it, but I would probably recommend it being like it takes a weird turn at the end that I don't agree with, but that's not enough to make me not want to make you watch the rest of the movie.
You know what it is? It is the Netflix rom-com version of Love Lies Bleeding, where
Oh,
it's
I
really really
don't know if
good.
I'd go that far.
It's really really good, and then the last like 5 to 7 minutes, it goes, "What the fuck?" And then you're like, "Oh man, I don't know if I want to recommend this because of the ending, because the ending sucks so bad." That's the first thing that came to mind, though. Is like, "Oh, it's good," and then the ending just completely kind of fucks it, which is what that movie did. But anyway, you gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 3.5. Like I said, if you want to see Glenn Powell in a lead role, I would say go watch Set It Up. But if you want to see him in something else, like this, then definitely check it out. But we'll see how he does in Twisters, here in July. So
Yeah,
another
like
month.
July 19th, I think.
Yeah, so we
17th?
got another month from it from now. Can't wait for that. More and more I see of that. I'm just have you got to see the second trailer yet? And
I have.
since you and better, do you feel better about it now?
I just to me it just felt like more of the same. I think it still looks great. I'm looking forward to it. I've already got my tickets bought for like the Wednesday early access screening.
Great.
It's
All
only a
right.
day early, but still. It's
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move to Bad Boys Ride or Die, which should have been Bad Boys for Life. I think that they just need to like Edge of Tomorrow this and just say Ride or Die is the third one, and Bad Boys for Life is the
the
second one.
directors agree with you. The director said we weren't sure there was going to be another one, so we like used it for this movie. And then they're like, "Oh, we want to make more." We're like, "Well, shit, we already used the good title."
Exactly. Like, come on, guys. It's do good enough in the third one to earn a fourth one, and then you can use that title.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bad Boys for Life. I just almost did it again. Bad Boys Ride or Die. Brian and I are huge Bad Boys fans. When we first met in our circles, that was probably one of the few things that Brian and I were like, yeah, because everyone else around us was like, "Oh, Bad Boys sucks." We're like, "Bad Boys 2 is fucking amazing." and that was one of the very first things that Brian and I were like, best friends. Yeah, like we both love the first two films. And it's one of those where it's like, I know, and my girlfriend asked me this as well, because she's like, "Is Bad Boys 2 really that good of a movie?" I go, "It is a fun as hell film. I know there's bad acting in it. I know it's overtly long, but I can't help but watch that with just utter joy and glee. Like people watch the Fast Five movies. I don't feel that way with the Fast Five movies, but I feel that way with Bad Boys 2. I am not as big of a defender of the first Bad Boys film. I think it's good. I don't think it is as good as a lot of people praise it to be, because I think there's certain scenes in the movie that I don't work well at all. Bad Boys 3 came out. We were both excited because we missed, Mike and Marcus. I didn't love the third movie. You liked it better than I did. It just didn't feel very Bad Boys to me. Now, granted, it was the first time with these two gentlemen. What's their names?
Adil and Bilal is how they credit themselves.
Yeah, who were supposed to do Batwoman or Batgirl, which got canceled. Even more so now.
It just didn't come out.
Even more so now after watching these two Bad Boys films, I really want to see what they did with that movie.
Yeah, and I know most people don't watch foreign films, but there's a movie they made called Gangsta. It's Belgian, but you can find it like dubbed or subtitled. It's a really fun movie. If you can, I've seen it pop up on Amazon Prime occasionally. It's worth checking out. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I was not. I thought it was fine. Where a lot of people put Bad Boys for Life as like their best Bad Boys film, it's still my third. But going into this fourth one, I don't think you and I were that excited with the first trailer. But I think once we got closer and closer to the date, you and I were starting to go more excited for this movie. But yeah, so first things first. And you're probably gonna do well on this when it comes to the end of summer stuff. This is the first movie I went to that was packed this year. I went to Furiosa, and I was like the one of like 5 people in that theater. I went to Fall Guy. There's about 20 people in there. This theater was sold out. This theater was loud. It was rowdy, which annoyed me and my girlfriend to a point, because I want people in there, but shut the fuck up. But let's watch the goddamn movie. But in a way, good, because it means we're finally getting some movie theater money. But you might be right in terms of where it's going to end up box office wise this year.
Last I saw, it was already going to make like a $53 million opening for the weekend, which is like double what like Furiosa and Fall Guy did in their opening weekends. So it's going to do well. I don't know if depends on the legs, though. I'm not sure. What's the next major one coming out?
Inside Out 2 next week.
Well, that's a family audience. I'm trying to think of what's the next. It's got a couple weeks, I think, before there's a. I'm looking now. Yeah, Bike Riders and Exorcism aren't going to do it, so they've pretty much got it. A Quiet Place comes out the 28th. So it's got like a couple weekends to still make some money.
Yeah. But I mean, and it's back to the Furious bit. It's bombing in Australia. Furious is bombing in Australia. Yeah, yikes. But anyway, Bad Boys. I'm gonna let you go first on this.
So going into this movie, like I said, I watched the first trailer. I was excited to see another one because I love the first two Bad Boys movie, including the first one. I love them even more than Sean does.
I don't think you love Bad Boys 2 more than me, but I think
the first one was more about the chemistry and the comedy between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. There was definitely action to it. I mean, it's Michael Bay's first film. There was definitely action to it.
Yeah.
But it was more about the comedy. I mean, it was originally written as a comedy script. I think the first people attached to it were John Lovitz and Dana Carvey. That tells you something. It seriously went through some rewrites, obviously.
Thank God. No offense to them. I like them, but no.
But it was a comedy, and the chemistry between those two was perfect. I think that's why people love that movie. I mean, the action scenes are fine. I mean, it's like I said, it's first Michael Bay, but it was about the comedy. By this time you hit the second movie, Michael Bay was Michael Bay, and the action got amped up 100 times. And so that was obviously kind of the form. There's definitely still comedy to it and the great chemistry, but the action was upped. And so that's more love because of that kind of thing. Ride or Die, Michael Bay didn't do. They brought in these two guys nobody'd heard of, Adil and Bilal. And I'm like, who are these guys? They're nobody directors. I don't know. I loved Michael Bay. That's what we loved about the other films. But I thought they did a perfect job of keeping the style, keeping the feel of the Michael Bay movies. I mean, they still kind of put their own stamp on it, but it definitely still felt like it was the same movie. It wasn't like a jarring change in direction.
That was never a problem with me. My problem was the script.
I was going to say is that the script wasn't as good as the other ones. I've actually enjoyed it more and more. The more I've watched it, I come to appreciate it more and more. I mean, I always liked it to some extent, but I think I've liked it more as I've rewatched it. But it definitely, as far as the story, was the weakest of the three. And also, as I've said 100 times before, by the time you hit this third movie, Martin Lawrence just looks out of it. He's got that 1,000-yard stare all the time. He's kind of slower in his talking, and it's not just age. Something's going on with him. I mean, I know he had like a heat stroke years ago, but it wasn't like a real stroke. But
I don't know. He's never been the same since then.
Yeah. So going into this one, you saw the first trailer for it. Martin Lawrence still has that kind of look. I'm like, oh, it's kind of sad watching him kind of these days. And the action in the trailer is kind of like fine, but I don't know. I enjoyed this movie. I did, but I will not lie. I was disappointed by it. There are details to it I'll go into in the spoiler section of things that kind of started me from the very beginning. I was kind of disappointed with it. But for the most part, I was just like, it just seemed like they had subplots and whole characters that I didn't really care about that could have been cut completely out of the movie. Martin Lawrence was still a little bit sad to watch, and I still loved their chemistry. There's definitely some great comedy moments, definitely some great action moments, but then there's also some weird moments, especially with Martin Lawrence someone gets into like supernatural stuff, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This doesn't belong in a Bad Boys film. I don't know. There's just something about it. It didn't completely work for me, and I enjoyed it. I still gave it a relatively good score. I actually think it probably will get bumped up a half star after I rewatch it, which I'll probably do again sometime this week. But it was just something about it didn't quite work for me. I think it doesn't help that every step of the movie was completely predictable too. It's like as soon as you see one character,
yes,
you know he's the villain. As soon as you see, this happened, this is going to happen. And it's just like, okay, you're not going to surprise us at all.
Every double cross, you predict who's the villain, who's not the villain. You predict where this one character is going to go in the third act. You predict how this character is going to do this thing. And I know I'm speaking very loosely, but we'll talk a little bit. Mm-hmm. This movie is so goddamn predictable. Once again, it's here with this, and I agree. I was not a fan of the first 20 minutes of this movie. They do something with Martin Lawrence's Marcus's character, and when it's happening, I'm like, this is not a Bad Boys film. What the fuck are we doing? Like, you're trying to do very artsy whoosh 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 things, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like this, no. I do like these directors. I do think they have a good idea of what Bad Boys is, and I feel like they do flow well with the Michael Bay isms, especially with the action. That is one thing that these guys are great at. They are great with the action when it comes to this film.
Yeah.
I feel like these guys, if it was the early 90s to 80s, I feel like these directors were on cocaine. These are like the ADHD-ist directors. They cannot keep a still frame. They constantly have to be always moving and going in, going out, going in. Like there's times where we're just having a conversation. We're just having a conversation, and the camera has to do this swoo side shot and then whip back around. I'm just like, and then there's like random close-up shots. I was like, we don't stop. Just sit still.
I agree it can be much, but if you're trying to find somebody to imitate Michael Bay, that's the right move.
But but Michael Bay knows how to stand still during just conversation scenes.
Yeah,
also the recasting of Marcus's wife. Ugh.
I was actually thinking about saying that for the spoiler section, but yeah,
she was atrocious in this movie.
Yeah, the first half hour had me worried. I'm like, this movie is not good. I'm already not liking this movie, and it started me off on a bad note with a couple things. One, the Marcus thing that we'll get into. Two, the complete that'll be spoilers too. The sidelining of one character who I really liked in the last movie, and three, the recasting of Marcus. Now apparently this had been announced a while ago. Teresa Randall wasn't
apparently too. I didn't know.
I didn't know that. I saw this girl. I'm like, wait, what happened to Teresa Randall? Why is this girl playing it? And I'm like, okay, if you have to recast it, you have to recast it. But she's playing like a whole different character.
Teresa's had a lobotomy at this point. She's all like, Marcus, hi, how's it going? It's like, no, Teresa was never like this. Like, what the fuck happened? Because this is not the Teresa character that we've known from 3 movies.
I'm like, are we tipping the hat to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when they replaced the mom?
This is almost as bad when Maria Bello swapped out with Rachel Weisz in The Mummy. When it's like, no, this is not. This you did you not pay attention to the first 2 films? At least act
and
like
just like in The Mummy, my thought on this one, as soon as I saw this woman, was like, oh, if Teresa Randall couldn't come back, you didn't need to have her in this movie. The character did not need to be present in this movie.
You could have had the kids take over. You could have had, Reggie.
You could have had she's just off at, on a spa day somewhere. And
based off of where they were at, you couldn't really. Why she wouldn't be on a spa day? But still,
but I'm saying there's no reason Teresa Randall's character, his wife,
you're telling me you couldn't get her. You couldn't get her back for a day. Now, granted, she has not done a film since Bad Boys for Life. Maybe she's retired, what have you. But it's not like the character.
Then leave the character out.
Yeah, it's not like the character really had that much to do in this movie. You could have got her back for a day to shoot this.
And nothing that affected the movie. You didn't even have to have her.
You really didn't. You really didn't. Except for maybe a joke in the first 20, 30 minutes, which is the same joke we get for everything that happens to that character in any movie or TV show. It's the same damn joke. But after the first 30 minutes, this movie started to feel like Bad Boys again.
Mm-hmm.
I was laughing. I was enjoying it. I was having a blast with this movie. Yes, predictable as shit. But you know what? This movie, and I already know you don't agree with me on it because you already said it. This is the first time that made me go, Martin Lawrence is back. Because I feel like Martin Lawrence is acting like Marcus again. Granted, he's doing this weird, character thing, but that's a script thing. Once again, the script is definitely not the strong point for these guys. But I'm watching this and I'm like, he finally is starting to feel like a bad boy again, where he didn't feel like that in the third film. And I'm enjoying Martin Lawrence in this movie. I didn't not enjoy him in 3, but like you said, in 3, you're just like, he feels off. He didn't feel off in this. He felt like he was back. I'm not saying let's have Martin go back and start doing his own movies again and all that kind of stuff, but I felt like, all right, good. These guys are back on the same page. Will's great, like always. I don't agree with a certain character trait they gave him in this one. I think it would have made more sense in the third movie than it did in this one, which we'll talk a little bit more on. But I love the chemistry of these guys. I thought it was great. I felt like I got the Bad Boys again for the first time, because I didn't feel that way with 3. I definitely felt that way with 4. The action sequences were great. I think the returning characters from 3 all were, granted, not as much screen time, but I thought they were all solid in the film. The new cast, I really, really, really wanted to like this villain. I like the actor. as the villain, but they give this guy
The secret villain or the known villain? Just
the known villain.
Okay.
McGrath. McGrath is played by Eric Dane.
Yeah.
I actually really, really like Eric Dane. And past Grey's Anatomy, he was great on Last Ship on TNT. I was like, oh, yes, Eric Dane. Oh, cool. They give him nothing to work with.
Not much, no.
He deserved better in this film. So did Rhea Seehorn. Is Rhea Seehorn?
That's
Is it Rhea Seehorn? I say it right?
Yeah, Rhea Seehorn. Her. Oh, you're talking about her. Oh.
Yeah, from Better Call Saul. She plays.
I thought that character shouldn't have been in the movie. I thought her character, her whole plus subplot, I would like get that out of here. I'd stupid.
She is too good of a fucking actress to saddle her with this role. She deserved more in this fucking film. She deserved better in this fucking film than this cliche ass of a character. Because anyone who's watched
I never watched Better Call Saul, so I'm not really familiar with her. So I can't say about the actress and having to deserve more, although she seems like she's probably a talented actress.
She's fucking amazing, and she deserves more than what she got in this
movie. You gave her this character and gave it more to the story that would more to do, then fine. But what they used her for, I'm like, this is completely superfluous.
You forget about her at points in the movie. And it's like her character should be a little bit more important based off of the story that we're getting.
Yeah.
I thought, is it Paula Nunez?
Paula Nunez.
I really like her, but I wanted more from her too.
That's the one which I mean, we'll talk about in the spoiler a little bit more because this is a minor spoilers. But I really liked her in the last movie. I thought she was badass. I loved her relationship with Mike. I thought that's great. I can't wait to see where they take that in this movie. And in this movie, not only did they not go with her character I wanted them to go, but she gets sidelined from being this badass character to being a suit. And it's like now she's boring. She has nothing to do. I mean, she has like a scene where she gets to get in a fight or something, but it's like this is not who I want her to be. I understand that she's the captain now or whatever, but it's like I didn't like where they went with her character. Yeah.
Alexander Ludwig, good. Vanessa Hudgens, good.
Mm-hmm. Harry Allen apparently didn't come back for some reason, but whatever.
Yeah, that was weird. I was like, where did he go? Jacob Sissipo, is it Scipio, who plays his son from the third film. I thought he was fine. He wasn't bad by any means, but
acting wise, I thought he was fine. There's another one with a character where they went with him.
There was a scene missing between him and Mike. I felt like they were gonna have that moment at the end, and we didn't get it. I felt like we're missing that scene. But yeah, at the end of the day, though, once you get past the first 30 minutes, I had a whole lot of fun with Bad Boys Ride or Die. And so for me, I'm giving it an 83. Because, and like I said, that's a little inflated because of Bad Boys. That's the Bad Boys love for me in that. Like a normal movie, this is probably a 3.5. But for me, I'm going to give it an 83 because it elevated the Bad Boys characters. Marcus and Mike have grown in this. They're not the same characters from Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. They are grown as characters. I don't necessarily like what they did with some of them, but when you have Will Smith and Martin Lawrence together on screen, it's still fucking magic. And I fucking love watching them, and I will always continue to love watching them. They continue on with Bad Boys 5, 6, 7, whatever.
Apparently there's already a 5 planned. So.
Oh, I mean, especially after this weekend, of course they will. Why not? You know, I mean, it's easy money for Will and Martin to just keep coming back, and these guys seem to be enjoying with directing. Just cut it with the artistic shooting. Like, they need to temper themselves. Like, action-wise, fucking go buck wild, because you guys know how to do the action. But just calm the fuck down for just the regular scenes. And there's one really, really, really big performance I want to talk about in this, but we can't talk about it until we get into the spoilers. But you said you gave it a...
You know what? When I originally reviewed it, I gave it 3 stars because it was like, well, I have all the other ones like 4. I think I might have one of them at 4.5. But like Bad Boys for Life, I have it 4 stars, I think. This one, I'm like, it's not. I didn't like as much, but it's more disappointment. So I had it at 3. I've actually already bumped it up to 3.5. So that's probably where it'll end up sitting.
So where does this rank in? What's your Bad Boys ranking now?
For me, it is the lowest one, but it's not like this one's shit. It's just like I like the other one's better kind of thing.
Okay, so is it what Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys for Life, and then Ride or Die, or is it Bad
Boys? 1
and
2 is like whichever one I watched most recently wins.
Okay.
So it's like they're constantly. If I had to pick right now, I'd probably say 2, 1, 3, 4. but like I said, 1 and 2 can switch places whenever.
Okay, mine, and you're probably gonna get annoyed with me, is 2, 4, 1, 3.
Wow.
I cannot stand Tia Leone and Bad Boys. I can't, and I think the whole middle act is boring as shit in the first Bad Boys film. I love the beginning. But once they do the whole undercover thing, yes, it's still funny, but it's dull, and there's some really shitty acting in that. But I love Bad Boys 2, and like I said, and I like this one over Bad Boys 3. But Bad Boys 1 is definitely better than Bad Boys 3. So yeah, that's my ranking for it. But so you gave it 3.5.
3.5.
And I gave it 4 stars. So there is our non-spoiler. So if you guys have not seen Bad Boys Ride or Die, stop now. Go watch it. Come back. We're about to go into the spoilers real quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Why are we on this thing now where they almost have to die in the beginning of every movie? Like,
but here the movie starts out, and they're doing this they're in this car in this chase scene, and I guess you're supposed to think they're in chase scene when obviously they're just doing the exact same thing from the last movie. It's like this time, instead of trying to get to the birth of his baby, their grandbaby, they're trying to get to Mike's wedding. So it's like, okay, we just reuse the same joke all over again. And then you have this time somebody almost dies, which is the same thing they did last week. It's just Marcus instead of Mike.
You have this weird fucking water,
and it's weird supernatural, he's in the what do they call it, not the underneath, the
in between or some shit, nether realm, whatever.
I forget what they called it in Get Out. But it's like they do this weird supernatural thing. He has this vision, of course, of Joey Pants, of Captain, which by the way, okay, I'm gonna kind of jump around here. He has this vision of by the tree with that bird on it and stuff like that. And then, throughout the whole movie, he's like, I can't die because he says it's not my time yet. And then he gets to that, he sees that tree and bird at the end, like, oh, is Marcus going to die here? I'm like, have they said this is the moment where he's finally going to die? Otherwise, there's no reason for the tree, the bird that he, saw in the earlier scene. There's no reason for that to have been in his vision. So that annoyed me. But first, right off the bat, you have the copying the first scene from the last movie. He gets to the wedding. It ain't Rita. It's this other fucking rando girl. And I'm like, so already got me pissed off because I wanted him to be with Rita. I'm like, that's awesome. Him and Rita can stay together. Nope. They just threw that in the garbage and said, nope, he just married some his physical therapist, I guess, from when he was recovering.
Was she in the third one?
We don't know. We don't care about. I don't see chemistry there.
They don't give them the time.
She's just like the extra they cast to be his wife in a couple scenes.
Can we just bring Gabrielle Union back, please?
So I'm already mad about he's not with Rita. I'm mad that he married this rando. And then, of course, we find out Rita gets sidelined and turned into the suit. So she won't even be part of the fun part of the movie. So I don't like that. Then you have the whole Marcus weird near-death experience thing going on. And then there's one more thing that right early on just really annoyed me.
I mean, the shitty performance of his wife.
Well, there's that. Oh, and the recast. Yeah, that was the thing. The other recasting of Marcus' wife, where I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing here? You have to recast it. Fine, pick somebody who's closer to the other actress, or at least can deliver the same character, but it's not, or just write her out. So in that first half hour, I was already like, oh my gosh, this movie has already started me off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, like I said, with the whole I bet when they were shooting that near-death experience thing, they were probably thinking, this shit is fucking money. And I'm going, this is shit. Yeah. It's like, this sucks. And then you have these conversations, which, once again, it's funny because it's Martin and Will. The whole, you were a donkey and I was your owner and I beat you. It's funny because it's them. But the actual just conversation of this is fucking stupid. Are we supposed to believe that this is a conversation that they would legit have? I don't know. But
yeah, I really hated the whole because I mean, it's like the whole thing with him, having this near-death experience and this revelation, and I can't die. It just felt again they were copying the last movie where he I can't kill anybody because I promised God when you were gonna die that I would make no more violence. And it's like, okay, can we just not copy the last movie? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, they literally bleed over from the third film because obviously we got the continued connection with him. And is it Armand or Armando?
Armando.
So you have obviously a continuation with that, which that's fine. That's a big fucking character move for Mike. But it's just, I feel like we were still in the same place by the end of the film. I mean, he's on the run. Mike's kind of okay with it, but like they never like have this moment where they're like, "Hey."
Well, here's the thing: is even at the end, he's kind of like, he's like, "Fuck you." He's a little treating him like, oh, we made a connection. You're my dad. He's like, "Oh, fuck you. I'm going on the run. Deal with it." And
well, he had to go on the run in general, but I kind of felt like they would have had at least a moment.
but why did he have to go on the run? Why couldn't they take him back in? He'd been apparently paying off his time by helping him out with stuff. Which, by the way, both the paying off of the time and the whole thing where they let him go at the end, say, "Oh, we're gonna let you go free," and even Captain's daughter, I forget the character's name. Yeah, Judy Howard, she lets him go too. It's like, even if you like this guy helped save your daughter, or he's your son, Will Smith, the dude still, I mean, just that we know of in the third film, killed 13 people. He killed, he killed a judge, an informant, the captain, a forensic investigator, the prosecutor, 5 thugs, 3 ambulance drivers, and then shot Mike. And all that, and that's just what we saw in this movie, not any of the crime he'd done before that, which I'm sure
was. Are we not supposed to believe he's not going to just go back to what he was doing?
But even if he didn't, even if he never killed anybody again, it's like they're not just letting you go when you've murdered 13 people that we know of.
All because you saved my daughter and you're my kid.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, because like
the fact your mom lied to you about your dad, who your dad was, doesn't change the fact that you murdered 13 people.
Yeah, because I'm like, where are they going to go with his character? Because it's like, he still is, like you said, this murderer, this assassin, basically. And I was like, well, okay, well, he's going to have to die. Like he starts to get fucked up, and I was like, okay, he's going to die, and then they'll have this moment. But then he like...
There's another one of those predictable moments where you knew as soon as Callie was there, you knew that he was going to save Callie, yes. And that's why, the
as soon as they
mom would come around.
Yeah, as soon as they became on screen together, I'm like, he's going to save her, and then she's going to get in the way, and then she's going to stop Judy from, killing him. Yep, and I was like, this is 15 minutes away, but I already know where the fuck they're going. Yep. And then you've got the introduction to Mr. Fantastic, Ioan Gruffudd.
Yeah, Ioan
Gruffudd. And within the first 30 seconds, I'm like, this guy's going to be the bad guy.
Oh, the minute he appeared on screen, I'm like
he's going to be the bad guy. Like, because you don't cast someone like him and have him just be a generic dude off in the corner.
Yeah, you're like, I know he's going to be the bad guy, but we'll see where this goes. And then as soon as they said, there's somebody inside, like, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah. Who did I talk to? Rita. Well, who's also there? Him. And then he just goes straight up like, I'm going to murder Rita in the fucking elevator. Like, whoa, you went from here to here real fast. And then as soon as he got away, I was like, he's going to get eaten by the albino alligator. Like, I already know where
that was totally telegraphed too. Yeah.
He's going to get eaten by the alligator, and he hadn't even gotten on the plane yet. I just knew, like, right from the get-go, I was like, he's getting eaten. There's no way he's getting arrested. He's not going to get shot. He's getting eaten, and stuff like that. So it was like, it was super predictable. The only thing I didn't predict was at the well, there was one thing I definitely didn't predict, but the one thing I was like, I know what's going to happen, and it didn't happen, was the standoff at the end, where he's got whatever her fucking name is, Christine. He's got Christine, and then Marcus is right here. There's like this tight window where you can still see Eric Dane's face, and I'm like, Will's going to shoot between them because Will's good enough of a shooter for that. And instead, he shoots Marcus, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hostage.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I thought he was gonna, because I kept like thinking, it's like,
which makes more sense because as soon as he shoots his gun, wouldn't he shoot back, or he could have shot
or just shoot Christine?
Yeah,
exactly. So I was expecting him to shoot like within that much space, because that's what Marcus did in 2. He did the roll and perfect shot, and instead he shoots him. I was like, well, Eric Dane's character would have really just killed Christine right at that moment. He wouldn't have waited. Even the shock factor that he shot Marcus, he still would have been like, well, fine, fuck, I'll shoot her too. So I was just like, okay, that was a decision. I will say, like I said, the action shots were good. I actually didn't know I was going to like the first person thing as much, because it just reminds me of Doom, but it worked. It really worked. And
they used the limited enough that they didn't overdo it. Yeah.
Seeing how they shot that, I was like, you know what? That was fucking unique. They did a better shot of using the drones. Maybe they watched Ambulance and said, this is how we should not do it. Michael Bay, which also Michael Bay popping up And then the
Again.
yeah, and but I mean, like I said, I thought the action shots. I didn't really care for the scene inside. I'm blanking on John Sally's name in the movie.
Oh, he was I got it right here. Hang on. He's Fletcher.
Fletcher.
I did like seeing him. I did like seeing him again because he
I
was
liked
fun.
seeing him.
But so I liked his cameo. Michael Bay's was a throwaway thing. It's like fine, have him in here again.
Yeah.
The one I thought was completely necessary was to bring back DJ Khaled as Manny. I like seeing DJ Khaled die. That's a good thing.
I was like, he had a great death though. He had a really
like there's no reason that character had to come back. But whatever.
Honestly, if you're gonna bring somebody back, bring back Dan Marino. He should really buy this car, not this one. I'm gonna fuck this one up. But
I have one more cameo. Go ahead.
Yeah, this guy.
No, I guess cameo or just small role. Fucking Tiffany Haddish, goddammit.
Oh my god,
It's like there was a time when I hated Tiffany Haddish. Anytime she was in something, like, oh my god, I hate this movie. I don't even want to watch this because she's in it. She's horrible. And then she did a couple things. Like there was the After Party on Apple TV Plus, and there was something else she did. I'm like, you know what? When she reins it in, she can actually be
Haunted Mansion. She was
Haunted Mansion. Yeah, it's like she can actually be decent. In the After Party, I thought she was actually very good. And there's a couple, one or two other things I've seen her when it's like, I don't hate her in this. So maybe, she got past that annoying, kind of thing. Oh, she came back full force this time.
Fucking turned like, to 11.
As soon as because again, I didn't know she was in this movie. And as soon as she popped up, I'm like, oh my God. Because she was so annoying.
When I saw Tiffany Haddish, I immediately went, oh, fuck.
Yeah. and it was everything we feared it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, at least it was only like a 5-minute scene. But still, it was 5 minutes that didn't need to be in there.
Now, granted, there were some funny lines in that scene, but she was obnoxious and I hated it.
Yeah, it's Tiffany Haddish just being fucking Tiffany Haddish. But
you were gonna eat that pussy.
What if he just sits down? What if he just sits down? I'm not doing that. Come on, Mike. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of Mike having this like panic attack meltdown because of Christine. It would have made more sense if he was having this in the third movie because he almost died. I almost felt like they should have like reversed their deaths in the movies. Like maybe Marcus should have had the heart attack in 3 and Mike should have gotten shot in 4 to make that make sense, or at least have the panic attacks in 3 and not in 4. Because it's like, Mike wouldn't be. He just got married. Like it'd be different if she was like pregnant with his kid and something, and he was having a baby. But I mean, he already has a kid. But you know what I mean? Like it just. I don't think the panic attacks were earned in this.
It probably took a way to kind of sideline him occasionally to like let Marcus have more of the spotlight.
Yeah, because Marcus was more the Mike character in this movie. Like it was more like letting Martin be more like Will Smith and Will Smith be more like Martin in this film, which I didn't hate it, but I just wish they would have done it in a different kind of capacity. I thought the airplane sequence was really good. Obviously, I thought the alligator farm scene was really well shot.
The action scenes I have no complaints about. Yeah.
What's that?
The action scene I have no complaints about.
Yeah. And the fucking MVP, fucking Reggie.
Oh
my God. The crowd in my theater were losing their fucking minds. There's
like now, because this kid is, when he made the Bad Boys 2, the dude's not an actor. He's just some dude.
You go with IMDb, there's no picture. He's
he had no acting experience at all. In the first movie, they just told him to go, I don't know if he's an extra or they pulled him off the street or what, to do this role. And he stood there and he didn't know what Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were going to do. And he kind of reacted to it. And he was, they were hilarious in that moment, but he was kind of like, whatever. He's just some kid standing there.
Yeah.
And he pops up in a very brief role in the last movie, saying a couple lines, but it's like, it's clear the kid's not an actor, but he was fine. And then he pops up in this movie. And it's like,
you think you just have like that one scene where he's on the couch.
You think he's just going to have that one scene on the couch where he's just kind of there delivering a couple lines. And then as soon as he pops into action, you're like, oh shit, I love it. Now, granted, he was, a little stiffer than like, Will Smith or Martin Lawrence because doesn't have experience.
Yeah.
But still, you didn't care because you're cheering him on. You're loving every minute of this. I love at the end when he just salutes the camera.
Exactly. And then of course the very, very, very end, which was like, is he still fucking back there? Yeah, he's still fucking back there. No, I'm gonna
let him look in his eyes.
I'm gonna let him cook his fucking chicken. I'm gonna go set the table. I'm gonna do the potato salad. and then he has smiles.
Yeah.
Perfect way to end the movie. I never has a character felt so like nothing, and then just went like went to oh my God, I love Reggie.
Well, and yet it was, it wasn't like they just said, let's like take this left turn with this character because they
It
have
was
already established that he's in the Marines,
it
that
was a
he's gonna,
quietly developed
yeah,
character arc that
yeah,
you paid attention to, but you were like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. And you're like, oh shit. Like, well, he is also playing Call of Duty, so he's like prepared for this shit. But it's like he went full ass John Wick on these motherfuckers,
yeah.
and it was done so brilliantly. And then just them watching it going, oh, like just them cheering him on. You kind of wish he could hear them at that point, but it's almost like he knew because he saluted the camera like, I know you guys are fucking watching this, like kind of thing. That whole scene was a crowd pleaser. It's probably gonna, and at least for a theater, like I loved Fall Guy, but
Mhm.
I feel like this is the scene that's gonna be the biggest crowd pleasing moment of the year to a point
Definitely one of them.
because oh my god, like I said, my crowd lost it. And after the scene ended, they kept going. I was like, shut the fuck up. The rest of the movie's going on. But like, I get it. It was a great fucking scene, but shut up. But yeah, the Reggie scene was fucking fantastic. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, covered all my notes.
All right. So we hope you guys enjoyed these small review for the watchers and our non-spoiler and spoiler reviews for Hitman on Netflix and Bad Boys. I almost did For Life again. Ride or Die. If you guys enjoyed these reviews, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we are going to be back again for another episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About. We're going to be talking about some movie news, some new trailers that popped up over the last couple of weeks, and our thoughts on the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. Also coming up this week, I'm pretty sure it'll be just me alone for this because Brian doesn't care about this, but Inside Out 2 will be in theaters. I will definitely have a review for that because I fucking love the first one, and I'm excited to see where the second one goes. But after that, did you say the next week was what, Bike Riders?
The next week is Bike Riders, Kinds of Kindness, The Exorcism, and Trigger Warning on Netflix. So no major films, but
yeah, but stuff that we would be cared enough to watch, but maybe it's not stuff we would probably do.
we'll probably get some mini reviews in the chat about kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. But we hope you guys stick around for all that. But until next time, I'm Sean Wasgroup. That is Brian Michaels. Until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
Don't watch The Watchers.
Apparently.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.